How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. Delighted to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, if you text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you can get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, everything you need. We've obviously got a lot to discuss, beginning with what happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday night. Now, I want to set the scene for you. I was actually, as you know, I was out of town this weekend playing golf, was at the Wynn Golf Course in Las Vegas, and we were just coming off the golf course. We were on West Coast time and started getting alerts on my phone. There had been a shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, that there was an attacker and things were in chaos. And literally, I'm getting off the course and my cell phone is just lighting up with notifications that something had happened. And we now know the guy, Colin Allen was his name. He was from California. He took a train to the East Coast via Chicago, checked into the Hilton in Washington, D.C., same place where Ronald Reagan was shot by Hinckley back in 1980. It's the traditional home of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I want to say something out of the gate here. The more that I research this situation, what you need to know is we are not dealing with an insane person. There are very often situations where we're dealing with an insane person. The shooter in Butler, Pennsylvania, we know very little about him, in large part because that was a kid who was clearly mentally unwell and wanted to become famous by killing the president. This is not a person who was insane. This is a person who believed the same things that Senator Chris Murphy believes and Hassan Piker believes, only he believed that someone, instead of just voicing their antagonism to the threat to democracy that Donald Trump is, needed to actually take on Donald Trump and do something about Donald Trump. He left a manifesto behind rationalizing his beliefs. He claimed that he was a person of faith and wanted to try to justify things for people of faith who were believed he was concerned. I don't want to amplify too much, frankly, the manifesto of this guy. And I do want to give some small bit of credit to, on CNN, one of the CNN analysts, their national security analysts, did the same thing. He didn't want to amplify the manifesto.
You're a former FBI agent. What do you make of the man's writings that he sent to family just before the attack?
Well, look, you and I have covered so many acts of violence where there is often a lingering question about what was a motive. And sometimes that's laborious work for law enforcement to try to dig into that. You take, for example, the attempted assassination against President Trump last year in Pennsylvania. To this day, there are still major questions about the motive, very mysterious. This is not that, Kate. I mean, everything that we're learning about this person from his own purported writings, he essentially lays out what the motive is. That's his deep animus for the president, for members of the Trump administration. He goes in this long kind of delusional ranting manifesto, which I won't get into to amplify, but he basically has a target list. And he goes so far as to, think, okay, people are going to criticize me for doing certain things. Here's my rebuttal to each of those points. And this is what FBI profilers typically call the typical grievance collector, someone who appears that they're so motivated by grievances that they then decide to act on violence. That manifesto will certainly be critical evidence in his prosecution.
And I want to focus on that last part, that he was so driven by grievance. That is the modern political left in this country, which I will spend some time with breaking down, because almost every single political assassination attempt in this country in the last decade has been from the left. Whether it's James Hodgkinson or Floyd Lee Corkins or the guy who tried to kill Brett Kavanaugh or the Charlie Kirk assassin. The left has done their best to try to twist, for example, the shooter in Minnesota who assassinated a member of the state legislature there as right-wing, and the guy was not right-wing. They saturated the airwaves with the idea that this must have been a right-winger, and it turned out it wasn't. And people on the left are still convinced that guy's on the right, just as many of the left are convinced that Charlie Kirk's assassin was on the left. And just because they believe it doesn't mean that it's true. What we know about this guy is he was a progressive. He was on Blue Sky, the Twitter alternative. He, like many others on the left, they left Twitter for Blue Sky, which has become an incubator for radicalization on the left. And he increasingly became more and more angry with people on the left, including guys like Hassan Piker, who claimed that you need to assassinate the MFers on the right and then didn't do it. That's a key point you've got to understand about this guy on the left. Colin Allen, this teacher who decided to attempt the assassination of Donald Trump and members of his cabinet, became more and more angry with people on the left who used the rhetoric of violence against the right but didn't act on it. And he decided they needed to act on it because they needed to save the country. Now, I want to play you some clips. I want to begin with the President of the United States, who had an interview with Norah O'Donnell on CBS, and I want to play you some of this interview.
Why don't you read it?
Well, he had a lot of anti-Christian rhetoric. He was part of a group called the Wide Awakes. He had attended a No Kings protest in California.
No Kings. Yeah.
What did security tell you about what may have been his motives?
The reason you have people like that is you have people doing No Kings. I'm not a king. What I am, if I was a king, I wouldn't be dealing with you.
Also at the dinner last night was your secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
His sister, Carrie Kennedy, was there. They've both witnessed their
father and uncle being assassinated. This is a little more for the president.
Mr. President, do you know if you were the target of the gunman?
I don't know. It sounded to me, I read a manifesto. He's radicalized. He was a Christian, a believer, and then he became an anti-Christian, and he had a lot of change. He's been going through a lot based on what he wrote. His brother complained about him, and I think reported him to the police, and his sister likewise complained about him. His family was very concerned. He was probably a pretty sick guy.
Yeah, yes, he was a sick guy, but this is the problem. He was also of the mainstream sickness that the left has these days against the president.
There was tremendous, by this time the event had taken place, people were starting to feel safe. There was tremendous camaraderie. I mean, I saw Democrats, I saw senators, I saw congressmen and women. I saw people that weren't necessarily on my side from the other party, mostly. Pretty much the Republicans are on my side, so I'm not that, surprised. And they were going, way to go. There was spirit in that room. I mean, it was like the whole country was together. Mm-hmm. It was pretty amazing. It made a big impression. It was very nice to see.
Do you think?
And, by the way, that shaped the president's tone afterwards where he wanted unity. He actually wants the White House Correspondents Center to go forward. He wants them to restage it and have it. And I think they should, by the way. You shouldn't let the shooter get his way. You should have the event. Todd Blanche was on Meet the Press, the acting attorney general, talking about where the guy got his guns.
Let's get to the facts. What is the very latest you can share about the investigation into the suspect and any potential motive?
So we, law enforcement, FBI, Secret Service, police departments in Los Angeles and in D.C. work through the night executing search warrants on a couple of different locations and also on devices to try to continue to investigate. It's been about 12 hours or so since the incident happened. And what we believe happened, at least as of now, is that the suspect traveled by train from Los Angeles to Chicago and then Chicago to Washington, D.C., where he checked into the hotel where the correspondence center was at in the last day or two. We believe that the 2 firearms he had on him he had purchased within the past couple of years, and we're still investigating motive, and that's something that will necessarily take a couple of days at least. We believe that he was targeting administration officials in this attempted attack, but that's again quite preliminary as law enforcement continues to go through all the evidence. I was on the phone with Director Patel after 1 o'clock in the morning. The FBI agents at both coasts were up all night and will continue doing their work. Prosecutors were up all night working. So it's a tragic, horrible event that happened. On the other hand, it really shows the best and brightest are keeping us safe, and what they did is great. So
that's Todd Blanche. He is the acting attorney general. And then there's Kash Patel, who was on Fox.
Weapons were transported along with the shell casings and ballistics back to Quantico Laboratories for analysis, and that information will be included again in the criminal complaint that's coming. And so what we're going to do is continue to look at the interviews that we've conducted, the dozens and dozens of interviews we've conducted over the weekend, and put that in one place to show you what he did, how he got there, when he got there, when he arrived, how he got down to the area in question, how he was able to get through security undetected. We have all those questions answered, and that's why I wanted to present with the Attorney General at the press conference later today once the magistrate is certified or signed off on the criminal complaint.
That was Kash Patel. Now, I want to play the clip that's gone viral from the Norah O'Donnell Donald Trump interview, and there's a reason for me playing this, but let me play you the clip, and then I'll tell you the reason for it. This has gone viral.
The so-called manifesto is a stunning thing to read, Mr. President. He appears to reference a motive in it. He writes this, quote, administration officials, they are targets. And he also wrote this, I'm no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people, horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
You think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, I'll do this interview and they'll probably, I read the manifesto, he's a sick person, but you should be ashamed of yourself reading that.
Now, I want you to know when he says rapist, you think he was talking about you? Of course. We all know he was talking about Trump. And the fact that Norah O'Donnell tries to play it is, you think that's a reference to you? Here's the thing, is these talking points, rapist, pedophile, and the like, that's what the mainstream left has been saying about Donald Trump for the last couple of years. All this guy did was echo what progressive partisans have been saying on television about Donald Trump. This is an echo of things that have been said on CNN and MSNBC and the pages of the New York Times and elsewhere about Donald Trump. For Norah O'Donnell to go, how do you know he was talking about you? Because it's what you people on the left have been saying about Donald Trump for some time. And this guy echoed it. He internalized it, and it twisted him to take action. And again, it is one of the most notable things about the would-be assassin of Donald Trump that he raged against the left for believing that Donald Trump was a pedophile rapist, a threat to democracy, an authoritarian who wasn't going to leave office, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. and took no action against him. And this guy decided he would take action. The left fanned the flames, and this guy got angry at the flame fanners doing nothing and decided to do what they said needed to be done. 4 days prior to this, the New York Times interviewed Hassan Piker, a guy being platformed by the left, being campaigned with by Democrats around the country, and he celebrated the ideas of political violence and sabotage. 4 days later, you get this. Now the left's like, it's not us. We don't know why. Yes, you do. Your rhetoric drove this guy to doing something to take action against the man you all on the left have called a rapist, pedophile, threat to democracy. Greetings. Welcome. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be happy to have you. The New York Times is broken. They're going to have to do something. The New York Times wants to be the paper of record for everyone. For years, whatever was on the front page of the New York Times drove the news cycle of the day. The shooting in Washington, D.C., the attempted assassination of President Trump and members of his cabinet on Saturday night happened before 9 p.m., around 8:34 p.m. Eastern Time. It was not covered on the front page of the New York Times on Sunday in its print edition. Not only was the attempted assassination of the president in a room full of reporters not covered on the front page of the New York Times on Sunday, the New York Times crossword in its Sunday magazine was wrong, leading a number of people to rage about it, first thinking themselves, some actually thought they must be going insane, they must be getting dementia, older people who do the New York Times crossword. It turns out, nope, they had completely screwed it up. The New York Times did in the print edition. So it was not the people doing it, it was the New York Times itself, and people were furious about it, quite upset, people who have a history of doing it. So you've got two major errors in the New York Times on Sunday, no coverage of the attempted assassination of the president. The crossword puzzle is screwed up. Those are kind of red flags that something is wrong at the New York Times, not at an editorial political bias level, but at an actual functioning level for the New York Times to be making these amateurish mistakes. Getting the paper to bed in a rush on a Saturday night, no one around to be able to hit the brakes on the printing presses. There are institutional problems at the New York Times, not just bias problems at the New York Times. Now, I got to tell you about Swiss America. All these events have effects on the economy and global markets, and Swiss America keeps you up to date on how the news impacts your fortunes and investing strategies and precious metals and the like. If you want to buy precious metals from them, you can. You go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric today. You can also get their Secret War on Cash report completely free. You go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, you fill out the form, and you can get their Secret War on Cash report at no charge to yourself. SwissAmerica.com/Eric. Now, what do you get from Swiss America as well? You click on the news and views tabs and you get bleeding edge information that makes you smarter than your neighbors, more informed, current information. You get it first. You know, information is not power. Information before everybody else is, and that's where Swiss America comes in to help you in your investment strategies. SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. SwissAmerica.com/Eric. If nothing else, get their free report, The Secret War on Cash, delivered to you. It takes less than 15 minutes to read. It's kind of eye-opening how the government's trying to steer you away from cash. SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. Before we get into the chronicles of left-wing violent rhetoric that inspired this guy, I got some clips you need to hear. I need to tell you about Renai first, and I want to talk to you if you are a plumber in particular today, because it's not just me who loves my tankless water heater. The federal government has engaged in deregulation, getting rid of some of the older, inefficient models of water heaters. October 2026, the new regulations go into effect. The Trump administration wasn't able to roll them back in time. So a lot of water heating systems for commercial use are going away in October. If you're a commercial plumbing professional, you need to know that Renai's got you covered. They've got tanks and tankless heaters that can meet commercial job needs. They exceed the new efficiency requirements. Are going to be available. They assemble their commercial products in Griffin, Georgia, just near me. They offer training and support for plumbers online, remote at their headquarters in Peachtree City, Georgia. So if you want to learn more and proactively prepare for the changes with these new federal regulations, partner with the best. Partner with Rinnai. They make my tankless water heater, and I love it. You can find out more about their commercial solutions at TalkingTankless.com. Now, listen, if you're a homeowner, they've also got a $500 rebate for you if you're a homeowner and you want to purchase or install by June 30th. You go to TalkingTankless.com. You click on the button for the rebates. You put in your information. You find the Erickson rebate, and you use my last name, Eric, or first name, rather, E-R-I-C-K, as your code to take advantage of this. Homeowners, you get the $500 rebate. You got to purchase and install by June. Plumbers, you need to go find out what your solutions are from Rinnai before these regulations kick into effect in October. Everything's available at TalkingTankless.com. Now, my friends, I need you to know that I think violent rhetoric on the left is increasing violence in this country. This is not a both sides issue, and a lot of you want to make it a both sides issue. And my propensity as your host is to try to be as fair as I can, whether people believe it or not, because I've been the victim of people on the right attacking me and my family. I want to set the stage for you here, and all of you need to listen to this, however uncomfortable it may be for some of you on the right to hear this, because it gets to a bigger point. That's not about the right. I've told this story before, and you need to hear this. The reason I'm willing to call out both sides is my family has experienced this. In 2016, I said I couldn't support Donald Trump. We had people show up at our house to threaten us. My son was beat up on the playground at his school in 3rd grade. My daughter was given a guide to commit suicide, prepared helpfully for her by children in her class, thinking and arguing to her that if she would kill herself, I would see the error of my ways and vote for Donald Trump. I want you to think about that. That happened to me. I'm not making it up. It's not an exaggeration. Those things happen. My children were chased through a store by a man yelling at them that their father was destroying the country by not supporting Donald Trump. My children were targeted. Y'all, I understand the problems of political violence and rhetoric in this country. It all came after President Trump, then a candidate, attacked me on the campaign trail for saying I wouldn't support him. The people who showed up at our house, the kids who beat up my son, the suicide guide for my daughter, had a woman at our church who came up to my wife after my wife informed her Bible study that she was given 2 years to live and had an incurable form of lung cancer, stage 4 lung cancer, incurable, had 2 years to live, told her Bible study class this, and this woman's first reaction was, I'll pray for you, but I really want to hit your husband. By the way, the kids were at our church's school. Thankfully, things have changed over time there. Our kids, we pulled our kids out of the school. It's a great school. It is. Don't hold it against the school, but at the time, that's what we were dealing with, and the administration at the time took no action. So I understand that the president can stir people up. I do. I absolutely understand that the right can be incentivized to lash out. My problem here is that the left wants to focus on that both sides with no accountability for themselves. And let's see, we have James Hodgkinson, who attempted the mass assassination of Republican members of Congress, who we know was inspired by MSNBC and the Southern Poverty Law Center. He was a fan of the SPLC. He was a major Rachel Maddow fan. In fact, so much of a fan of Rachel Maddow that she had to publicly distance herself from him on television, saying he's never reached out to the show. That's how much of an MSNBC and Rachel Maddow fan the guy was. Floyd Lee Corkins was inspired by the Southern Poverty Law Center website. to target the Family Research Council and attempt the mass assassination of members of the FRC. The guy literally went and bought Chick-fil-A sandwiches because he thought they were bigoted chicken sandwiches from a hateful company and was going to shove them in the mouths of the dead at the Family Research Center. A man attempted the assassination of Donald Trump. No, not the Butler, Pennsylvania kid who appeared to legitimately be suffering mental health issues. The guy in Florida tried to cooperate with the Ukrainians to get them to try to assassinate Trump, and they said absolutely not. And so he attempted to kill Donald Trump because he was a progressive hiding in the bushes at his golf course. This guy this weekend wanted to kill Trump and members of his administration, and he was angry at the left because the left uses all the hateful rhetoric about Donald Trump and didn't take action. And this guy decided he would take action against Donald Trump because the left told him. The mainstream left, not the fringe left, but the mainstream left says that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy and we need to engage in maximum warfare against Donald Trump. And you're saying, Erickson, it's not the mainstream left. It can't be the mainstream left.
We are in an era of maximum warfare. Everywhere, all the time.
That would be Hakeem Jeffries. That is the minority leader of the United States House of Representatives. We are in an era of maximum warfare everywhere, all the time. And the shooter is upset at people like Hakeem Jeffries for saying maximum warfare and then not engaging in warfare. This is Abdul El Sayed, the front runner of the Democratic Party in Michigan, who's campaigning with Hassan Piker, who has openly called for the assassination of Republicans. This is the Democratic candidate.
We need Democrats who have the courage to stand up to the power brokers in our own party, let alone Trump and his goons. We don't back down. We don't back down. We don't back down. With all due respect, if they go low, we don't go high. We take them to the mud and choke them out.
We take them to the mud and choke them out. That's the front runner for the Democratic nomination for the Senate in Michigan. This is Lee Slotkin, the U.S. Senator from Michigan.
The debate now among Democrats is, how do you answer the following question? Is Donald Trump an existential threat to democracy in his second term? Or is Donald Trump's second term, a fly on me, is Donald Trump's second term bad, but like his first term, survivable if we just wait it out? Right? And I just want you to know from your senator, as someone who sits in that room on your behalf, I am in camp number one. He is an existential threat to democracy.
He is an existential threat to democracy. Donald Trump is. That's Elise Slotkin, the senator from Michigan. And the shooter this weekend argued that if he is an existential threat to democracy, he needs to be eliminated. But it's not just them. This is Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker is campaigning with Democrats around the nation 4 days before this attempted assassination. Hassan Piker was featured in a loving interview with the New York Times where he encouraged political sabotage and justified the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This is Hassan Piker.
Well, my understanding is that the property owners who have properties there choose just not to rent it at all.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those mother. Murder those mother. In the street, let the streets soak in their red capitalist bloods, dude.
Let the streets soak in their red capitalist blood. That guy is being platformed the Democrats. Vanity Fair, the New York Times, on the campaign trail with the front runner for the Democratic Senate nomination in Michigan, among others. Democrats have been wrapping their arms around him. The Democrats are running a guy for the Senate in Maine who features a Nazi tattoo that is tied to the group that engaged in the Holocaust for the Nazis. And they're denying that this guy has violent tendencies or rhetoric. This guy who's running, Graham Plantner or whatever his name is, in Maine has called for violence in the past. And the guy this weekend took him up on it. This is Jimmy Kimmel, and you should know that Melania Trump in the last few minutes has released a statement calling for ABC News to do something about Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel did a mock White House Correspondents' Dinner speech, and this is how he opened it.
Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
You got that? That was what Jimmy Kimmel did the other night before this guy attempted to make her a widow. He also did this.
Oh, look at who we have here, Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is so racist. The reason he went bald is because his hair was black. Stephen Miller puts the cyst in white supremacist. He's like if baby Hitler traveled in time to kill us.
Stephen Miller was a target of the assassin. This is the left-wing mainstream. This is the Democratic Party of the United States. We've had the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which progressives convinced themselves was done by a conservative when we know the guy was a progressive activist inspired to kill Charlie Kirk because of Charlie Kirk's opposition to transgenderism. That's a fact. That is a statement of fact. It's not my opinion. We had the attempted assassination of Brett Kavanaugh after Chuck Schumer called for protest against the Supreme Court justices, telling them they would reap the whirlwind for what they did by getting rid of Roe v. Wade. You've had Democrats say we got to take on the Supreme Court justices and get in their faces. And a guy tried to kill Brett Kavanaugh. Multiple attacks on the president of the United States, or attempted attacks on the president of the United States. The mass assassination attempt on Republicans that nearly killed Steve Scalise by James Hodgkinson, who was inspired by the Democratic rhetoric that Republicans were going to kill people by rolling back Obamacare. And the Democrats never want to be accountable. Jamie Raskin, who himself has said outlandish, hyperbolic things about the Republicans, called on this and just can't imagine why anyone would be inspired by them.
And you have, as many of your fellow Democrats, have used some heated rhetoric against the president. And do you think twice about that when something like this happens?
What rhetoric do you have in mind?
Just talking about some of the fact that he, is terrible for this country and so on and so forth. I understand that that's your Democratic right, but overall, do you have a responsibility?
I have no personal problem with Donald Trump at all. I mean, I talk about the policies of this administration, the authoritarianism like we saw on display in Minneapolis.
You got that, the authoritarianism of this administration. But he wants to distance himself. By the way, you know what he did? He went on Face the Nation and he tried to pivot the conversation.
There, RFK Jr., as we mentioned, and you were at that Capitol on January the 6th, sheltering in fear for your life at that period of time. How did that influence what happened last night? What did you do?
So I just entered the room and I was talking to some reporters who approached me from the Boston Globe. Their table was right near the perimeter as I was entering the ballroom. Kerry Kennedy was their guest and we were in conversation when there were three loud booms. I heard some screams, plates, glasses, silverware hitting the ground, and then everybody was yelling, "Get down." Somebody kind of pushed me from the back, and we all ended up on the floor. When it was over, Kerry, who of course lost her father to an assassin gunman, and her uncle, President Kennedy, she said, I can't believe that school children are dealing with this all across America and don't have the resources to process their trauma. And so that launched a conversation about gun violence and how, somewhere between 275 and 300 people are shot every day in our country, and we lose more than 100 of them every day. So
you got that? It became not a conversation about Democratic rhetoric, but about gun violence. By the way, this will be the only mention of gun violence I suspect we're going to get out of the media on this, since it targeted Donald Trump and his cabinet. It's amazing how all the conversations about gun control just evaporate when it's the left targeting Republicans. The Democrats have been stirring this will for a while. They're now seeing the violence come from it, and they want nothing to do with being held accountable for their violent rhetoric. This shooter is mad at the left for saying all the time that Donald Trump is a rapist, pedophile, warmonger, threat to democracy who's never going to leave office and then not taking action. He was inspired by all of that to take the action and is mad at the Democrats for not manning up and doing what he's doing. And I want you to know that last night outside the event, Democratic protesters were holding up signs saying, kill the president. They actually were. Signs said, kill Donald Trump outside. And inside, one of the left decided to do just that because of the left-wing rhetoric that the left now says, not our fault, not us. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States, 877-973-7425. If you'd like to be on the program, this hour is brought to you by Van Allen Golf. And yes, I used my Van Allen Golf putter in Las Vegas, and it was great. The golfer who held it, not so great. But man, every time I take that putter out now, people want to check it out and order it. I sold several of them this weekend. Love them. VanAllenGolf.com. You can text the word golf to 33777. I had a great time in Las Vegas. The weather was great. Really needed the break. It's some terrible golf 2 days in a row, but it was worth it. I have a programming note for those of you on my flagship station, WSB out of Atlanta. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to interview the Republican gubernatorial candidates. At 2 p.m. tomorrow, Rick Jackson. At 2 p.m. Thursday, Brad Raffensperger. 2 p.m. Friday, Chris Carr. 2 p.m. on May 11th. I'm going to be interviewing Burt Jones. So this week, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday on WSB at 2 p.m., I will be interviewing the gubernatorial candidates. I've got some thoughts on some of the races, I'll tell you. But first, I got to tell you about Vision Computer. If you're buying a computer, building a computer, you want to go to visioncomputers.com or call them at 404-COMPUTE. Let them help you with your devices. They can build a new computer for you, and if you do with them, you're going to get their tech support complimentary with the computer, and it's world-class tech support. If you ever have a question, you don't even have to have a problem, just a question. You don't know where a file is. You save something. You don't know where it is. You don't know how to do something. You need help setting up your email. They can help you with it. Printer support, email support. If you're a company and you need managed IT support for your company because you can't afford an in-house IT guy, Vision can be there for you, and they work with companies across the nation, not just in the Southeast, but all over the nation. They can even set you up to be able to remote in to help you. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com is where you want to go. They can save you some money. Your employees need to be productive at their jobs. That doesn't necessarily mean being productive at computers. That's where Vision comes in. Let them be productive at their computers, where your employees are productive at their jobs. 404-COMPUTE, visioncomputers.com.
Cantu heard you loud and clear with their new Ultra Moisture Collection. Powered by Botana Oil and Jamaican Black Castor Oil, this new lineup collection is clinically proven to deliver nonstop moisture for up to 5 days. 5 whole days. The shampoo gently cleanses without stripping, and the leave-in and stylers keep curls soft, defined, and nourished long after wash day. Plus, it's free of sulfates, parabens, silicones, and mineral oils. If your curls have been craving real moisture, this is it. So if your hair's curls have been thirsty, go ahead and try the new Cantu Ultra Moisture Collection. Your curls will thank you. Available now at Walmart.